There comes a moment in everyone's life when silence speaks louder than applause, when the soul whispers louder than the world screams. We spend our days chasing things that shine, validation, admiration, comfort. But one day, something changes. Not dramatically, not with a bang, quietly, like the way morning light creeps in without asking permission. And in that moment, you realize you'll never be the same again. It might come after heartbreak, it might come after success. It might come after losing something you thought you couldn't live without. But when it comes, you'll feel it. That subtle shift in your chest, like the air has changed. It's the death of who you were, and the quiet birth of who you are meant to be. I used to think strength was about control. Now I know it's about surrender. I used to think love was about finding the right person. Now I know it's about becoming the right presence. I used to think time was endless. Now I know every second is borrowed, and we are here on loan. So what do we do with that knowledge? We forgive quicker, we speak softer, we hold hands tighter, we laugh louder, we make peace with our past, and we stop negotiating with the future. Because life isn't waiting. It's unfolding right now, in this breath. And I'll tell you this, when you finally stop running from yourself, when you stand still long enough to hear your own soul speak. Absolutely. Here is an expanded version of the first keynote from the speech, in the same reflective and emotionally rich style. Transformation is often subtle, not dramatic. It doesn't always come with a crash or a scream. Sometimes it arrives in a quiet moment when no one is watching. You're brushing your teeth. You're standing in line at a store. You're staring out the window, not thinking of anything in particular, and something shifts. Something inside you quietly rearranges itself. And you just know. You're not the same person you were yesterday. People often expect change to feel like a storm, chaotic, loud, unforgettable. But real transformation, the kind that shapes your core, rarely comes in noise. It creeps in during stillness. It's the morning you wake up and realize you're no longer angry, or the night you fall asleep and don't feel lonely anymore. Not because someone came, but because you finally come home to yourself. There's no announcement, no parade, no final scene with music swelling in the background. Just you, slowly shedding the skin of who you thought you had to be, and what's left is raw, honest, quietly powerful. And maybe the world doesn't notice the change right away, but you do. You feel it in how you breathe, in how you speak, in how you choose peace over panic, silence over chaos. You carry yourself differently, not because everything got easier, but because you got softer, wiser, braver. That's the thing about real change. It doesn't need to prove itself. It just is. A calm certainty in your bones that says, I'm not who I used to be, and I don't want to go back. And from that moment forward, everything, how you love, how you walk, how you live, reflects the truth. You'll never be the same again. Letting go is strength, not weakness. That's one of life's quiet truths, the kind you don't learn until you've held on too long. We're taught from a young age to grip tightly, to hold on to people, to plans, to versions of ourselves that no longer fit. We think endurance is noble, and sometimes it is. But other times, it becomes a cage we decorate with pride. There is bravery in release, not the loud, triumphant kind, but the soft courage that whispers, "This no longer serves me." It takes real strength to unclench your fists, to loosen your grip on what you thought should have been, and to trust the unknown instead of trying to fix the past. Because letting go means choosing reality over fantasy. People confuse letting go with giving up, but they're not the same. One is surrender with intention, the other is defeat. Letting go isn't walking away in weakness, it's stepping back in wisdom. It's looking at something, a relationship, a habit, a story you've told yourself, and saying, I love what this gave me, I honor what it taught me, but I can't carry it any further. And the moment you do that, the moment you truly release what no longer belongs to you, you make space. Space for breath, for stillness, for new things to find you. You stop clinging and you start trusting. Trusting that maybe life has a rhythm you don't need to control. Trusting that what's meant for you won't require you to bleed just to keep it alive. In that trust, you'll find a different kind of power, one that doesn't shout or struggle. A quiet strength that comes from knowing your peace is worth more than your pride. And once you've felt that, you'll never see letting go the same way again. Love begins with presence, not perfection. We spend so much time trying to be enough, to look right, speak right, live right, hoping that if we just polish ourselves enough, we'll be worthy of love. But real love doesn't ask for performance. It asks for presence. It asks you to show up, not as an idea of who you think you should be, but as you are. Unguarded and true. The world trains us to chase the image, flawless bodies, perfect words, curated emotions. But love is not found in the flawless. It is found in the cracks, in the undone, in the quiet moments where you are completely yourself, and someone stays, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. When you stop trying to earn love and start allowing yourself to receive it, you realize it's never been about being more, it's about being here, fully, in the room, in the moment, with your phone down, your mind still, your heart open. That kind of presence. The kind where you listen to understand, where you hold space without fixing, where you let someone be. That's where love grows. And the same is true for how we love ourselves. You don't need to be healed to be worthy. You don't need to be accomplished to be enough. You need only to stop abandoning yourself in pursuit of a version of you that might make others comfortable. Love begins the moment you stop trying to escape who you are. Perfection is a moving target. You'll never reach it. But presence? That's available right now. In this breath, in this heartbeat, in this quiet miracle of being alive. And when love meets you in that space, when someone sees you not for your potential, but for your presence, it's unlike anything else. That's the kind of love that transforms. That's the kind of love that stays. Time is precious and finite. We treat it like it's endless, like we can spend it carelessly and somehow always get more. But we can't. Time is the one currency we can never earn back. You can rebuild your fortune, mend a broken heart, start a new path, but you can never reclaim the hour that just passed, or the breath you didn't notice. We waste so much of it waiting for the right moment, for permission, for the stars to align. We say, I'll start tomorrow, I'll say it next time, I'll live when things settle down. But life doesn't wait. It keeps moving with or without your participation. The people you love, the chances you have, the days that could hold something sacred. They don't pause until you're ready. And so many of us live as if we have, forever. We think we'll get another chance to say the words, to forgive, to try, to hold someone just a little longer. But one day the clock runs out, the silence is real. The door closes, and we're left with the ache of what we didn't do, more than the sting of what we did. Time is asking you to pay attention, not just to the big moments, but to the small, invisible ones. The way sunlight spills across a table, the sound of someone's laughter in the next room, the quiet in your chest when you're finally at peace. These are the things that make up a life. Not the awards, not the approval, but the seconds we usually overlook. You don't need more time, you need more presence in the time you already have. Because the truth is, none of us know how many pages we have left. And that's not meant to scare you, it's meant to wake you. Wake you to the beauty, the urgency, the miracle of being alive right now, in this moment, with this breath. And once you realize that, once you stop sleeping through your own life, you'll never see time the same way again. True peace comes from within, not from applause. For so long we are taught to seek our value in the echo of others, in their approval, in their praise, in the way they look at us when we succeed. And for a while, that noise can feel like meaning. It's easy to mistake being seen for being known, or being liked for being loved. But there comes a day when the applause fades, and all that's left is you, without the spotlight, without the performance, without the mask. And in that stillness you discover something deeper. Peace doesn't arrive when everyone agrees with you. It doesn't live in the compliments, the promotions, the followers, or the validation you've chased like a prize. Those things are loud, but peace is quiet. It doesn't need to be noticed to exist. It doesn't beg to be celebrated. It simply is, waiting for you beneath the surface, beneath the striving, beneath the roles you've played for so long. You find it when you stop running from yourself, when you no longer need to prove, or persuade, or perform, when your value is no longer up for debate, not to others, and not to the critic in your own mind. There is a kind of freedom in that, a stillness that can't be taken from you, because it wasn't given to you by anyone else. You earned it the hard way, by sitting with your pain, by holding your own hand in the dark, by learning how to breathe through the noise without letting it define you. And maybe no one claps for that kind of growth. Maybe it doesn't come with a trophy or a stage, but it's the kind of victory that lasts. Because when your peace lives inside you, it can't be touched by storms outside of you. And that's the kind of strength that changes how you move through the world. Calm, grounded, unshakable. Healing begins when we stop running. We run in so many ways, through distraction, through denial, through busyness disguised as ambition. We run from the quiet, from the mirror, from the truth we aren't quite ready to face. And for a while it works. The noise keeps the pain at bay, the momentum feels like purpose, and the distance we put between ourselves and our wounds feels like progress. But healing doesn't happen in motion, not the kind that matters. Real healing waits for us in stillness. There comes a time when the running gets heavy, when no matter how far you go, the ache follows. Because the truth is, you can't outrun what lives inside you, you can only face it. You can only sit with it, with the grief you didn't name, the anger you swallowed, the disappointment you tried to bury, and in that brave stillness something shifts. Not right away, not all at once, but slowly, like the way dawn creeps in. Soft, unnoticed, and full of promise. As the sun rises, let the way inward not, let the sunrise break. It takes courage to stop, to be still, to feel, to look at your reflection without the armor, without the excuses, without the distractions. But that's where healing begins, not in fixing, but in facing. not in pretending, but in allowing. You don't need to have the answers. You don't need to be ready to forgive or move on. You just need to be willing to stay with yourself, even when it hurts. Because that's what healing really is, not erasing the past, but integrating it. Not becoming someone else, but finally becoming whole. And when you stop running, when you choose to stay with the brokenness, with the beauty, with everything in between, you begin to remember who you were before the world told you to be something else. And that remembering, that's where the real healing lives. A shift in perception can change everything. The world outside doesn't always change, but the way you see it can, and when it does, your entire reality follows. Sometimes it's not the situation that needs to transform, but the lens through which you're looking. A problem becomes a lesson, a loss becomes a clearing, a delay becomes protection. Life itself begins to speak a different language when you start listening with new ears. So often we wait for circumstances to improve before we allow ourselves to feel peace, to feel joy, to feel alive. But what if the shift isn't in the world? What if it's in us? The moment you decide to see differently, everything begins to rearrange. The same people, the same days, the same challenges, they start to reveal something else, a deeper meaning, a hidden grace, a doorway you hadn't noticed because you were too busy staring at a wall. Perception is powerful. It can keep you stuck in a story of lack, or it can free you into a story of growth. It can convince you you're broken, or it can show you how beautifully resilient you are. And the moment you recognize that you are not your thoughts, that you can observe them, question them, shift them, you realize you've had the key the entire time. A new perspective doesn't always come from a book or a speech or a breakthrough. Sometimes it comes in a moment of surrender, when you're too tired to resist, and you just breathe. And in that breath, you see with new eyes. You forgive what you couldn't. You understand what used to confuse you. You let go of what never really belonged, and everything, though still the same, feels different. That's the quiet miracle of perception. It doesn't ask the world to change. It asks you to change. And when you do, when you truly shift the way you see, even slightly, you'll never walk through life the same way again. When you see differently, you live differently, and you'll never be the same again. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about finally seeing who you've always been beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the expectations. Life has a way of covering us up, with labels, with roles, with routines that slowly make us forget. But the moment your eyes open, even a little, to a deeper truth, everything begins to move in a new rhythm. You start choosing differently not because someone told you to, but because the old ways no longer fit. You no longer crave chaos when you've tasted peace. You no longer chase attention when you've found self-respect. You stop settling for conversations that leave you empty. You stop abandoning yourself for people who only love the version of you that keeps them comfortable. And none of these changes come from force, they come naturally, effortlessly, like a flower turning toward the sun, once it realizes it was planted in shadow. This shift isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it looks like silence instead of reaction. Sometimes it's a single breath between impulse and response. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to walk away from what no longer serves you, even when you could have stayed. And though these moments may seem small, they are seismic, because they mark the beginning of a new way of being, one where you live from awareness, not autopilot, where you are guided not by what the world demands, but by what your soul needs. You begin to trust yourself more. You soften where you once tensed. You find meaning in moments that used to pass you by. And the more you lean into this way of seeing, this clear, calm inner knowing, the more you realize you can't go back. Not because you're bitter, but because you've grown. You've seen too much, felt too much, learned too much. You've awakened. And from that awakening, there is no return, only deeper steps into who you truly are. And so, as you stand here today in this moment, in this breath, remember that change is not always loud, it's not always visible, not always dramatic, but it is real. And when you begin to embrace the subtle shifts, when you start to see with new eyes, when you stop running from the truth, you will find that you are no longer the person you once were. And that's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate. You'll never be the same again, and that's the most beautiful gift life can give you. Because growth isn't about perfection, it's about evolution. It's about learning, unlearning, and embracing the quiet power that comes with letting go of what no longer serves you. As you move forward, let go of the need for applause. Embrace your own stillness. Seek peace from within. Trust that time is precious and spend it wisely. Know that healing begins when you choose to stop running. And above all, know this: you are already enough. The moment you realize this, the world around you will begin to reflect that truth. You are not who you were yesterday, and you will never be the same again. And that is your freedom.